Now, on climate and environmental matters, the outlook does appear fairly bleak for this incoming Trump presidency. During his first term in office, Trump rolled back more than 100 environmental rules governing clean air, water, wildlife, and toxic chemicals. Well, to take a look at what he's likely to do during his second term in office, France 24's Charli James is with me now. And Charli, look, what has Trump said, first of all, he plans to do when it comes to the environment?
So, Nadia, Trump calls climate change a big hoax. So it's not really a surprise he's not expected to be a steward of the environment during his presidency. He says that the economy needs to take priority over the environment. So he plans to roll back climate regulations and push forward fossil fuel production. Now, this is something he's been promising throughout the campaign, and that he has said as recently as yesterday at his pre-inaugural dinner. Have a listen.
We will quickly defeat the inflation crisis and unlock the liquid gold. You know what liquid gold is? We have more than anybody under our feet. In other words, we will drill, baby, drill, and get those prices down, and everything else is going to follow energy.
Drill, baby, drill. It's one of his many slogans, and Trump says that he wants to create new opportunities for production by dismantling what he sees as unnecessary and burdensome regulation related to climate. So he's promising to get rid of a lot of the regulations that President Biden put in place, including ones that were aimed at slashing carbon dioxide, methane, and other emissions from cars, power plants, and other industrial sources. And he says he's going to get started on this immediately through executive orders. And he's planning to start that, he says, today. Now, executive orders are directives from the sitting president that become law, and they overturn any previous executive orders from other presidents. So he's essentially just undoing everything that President Biden put in place that worked towards U.S. climate goals. So it's interesting, Nadia, that during the campaign, Trump also called himself an environmentalist. He said, we want really clean air, we want really clean water. But this is in direct conflict with promising to increase the amount of fossil fuel production in the U.S.
And Charli, we're talking obviously because it is inauguration day today, and just to let our viewers know what is happening in the timeline, as Charli was just speaking there, we saw the Trumps, Donald Trump and his wife Melania, leaving St. John's Church there, not far from the White House. They are now to drive to the White House, where they will be greeted there by the Bidens. And while we wait for those images for them to arrive, let's go back to Charli, who's still with me, talking about environmental issues. And so, look, Charli, what else did Donald Trump do during that first term that could give us some more clues as to his plans now?
So Trump withdrew from the Paris Climate Accords during his first term after calling it a bad deal for the U.S., bad for the economy. And in the eyes of some in the world, this really hurt the U.S.'s reputation. It made it hard for other countries to be sure that they could trust the U.S. to follow through on its commitments when it comes to the climate. So Biden did reverse that action when he came in and he rejoined the accord. So now the question is President Trump going to withdraw again when he takes power? He could withdraw. The other option could be that he just ignores the requirements of the agreement. Either way, the U.S., who is the second biggest emitter in the world, is set to once again stop being a global leader on climate. And if the U.S. withdraws or ignores the Paris Accords, it could give other countries that are maybe struggling to hit their own markers permission to withdraw or ignore the accords themselves.
And look, Charli, finally, who's Trump putting in his cabinet? Who's going to help him enact his vision on climate?
Right. So the main governmental body in the U.S. that protects the environment is the EPA. It's called the Environmental Protection Agency. Trump's nominee to run the EPA is Lee Zeldin. He is a former New York congressman. He's a Trump loyalist, and he has a resume that you could say is light on environmental experience. During his confirmation hearing last week, Zeldin did acknowledge that climate change is real, which breaks from Donald Trump, who, like I said, calls climate change a hoax. But we also heard from Zeldin that he is very much on board with Trump's climate agenda. Have a listen.
It is simple but essential: to protect human health and the environment. We must do everything in our power to harness the greatness of American innovation with the greatness of American conservation and environmental stewardship. We must ensure we are protecting the environment while also protecting our economy.
While also protecting the economy. There you go. We hear again this balancing of environmental health with economic health, and it very much looks like the economy is going to win out on the scales there. Zeldin is likely to scrap climate standards for power plants, the oil industry, and cars. And Trump has also indicated that he wants to make big cuts to the staffing numbers at the EPA.